Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pokemon Review Series, and boy oh boy, do we have quite the exciting episode today, because we are touching on our first Gen 9 Pokemon. We're finally reaching the end of the decks for this series, so it's been a long time coming, but yeah, let's get into Meowscarada. Meowscarada is a very interesting Pokemon in this game for a lot of reasons. We have a lot to talk about in this episode, shockingly. Um, yeah, so it's an ingredient specialist, dosing type as is typical for dark type Pokemon. Notably, all the Paldean starters, especially Masquerada, is a type changing one. So, oh, whoops, did not mean to download that. Meant to do that. Um, Floragato is a grass type, so it changes islands, which one it has favored berry on, but for the most part, that doesn't really matter, because you wouldn't really be running Floragato for its berries. So if you're at Lapis anyway, maybe hold off until evolving. Like, if you're running this guy and you're at Lapis anyway, maybe hold off on evolving it until you are done with Lapis. But it's not going to make that big of a difference overall, because berry productivity is a very small portion of its productivity. But I want to talk about what makes this Pokemon very unique. It is an ingredient specialist for cooking power up S. Cooking Power Up S is a very interesting skill because it makes cooking easier to do, or making cooking more powerful meals, especially, very easy to do. And it's got a 2.2% skill trigger rate, which is kind of low, but it's an ingredient specialist. This is more just an added nice bonus. It's got a 19% ingredient rate, which is a little bit on the lower side, with a 43-minute speed, which is a little bit above average. So those kind of counteract each other, but the big thing that's interesting with Meowscarada is its ingredient list. It is the only mono potato option in the game, if you want a true mono Pokemon. So if you want to make the comparison for potatoes, it just isn't even... It's got good enough stats that it's not even... Like, the second place option isn't even comparing in productivity. The second and third place options. And that's if you have this, it's 71 versus like 64, like the second highest. Um, with ingredient finding M, that makes the gap even bigger of like 96 to 87, almost 10 potatoes a day. That is pretty significant, and also being a mono specialist, it's got less RNG variation. So, and you can see that with a 2,000-hour ribbon, its pre-evolution actually outperforms the like second and third place options for potatoes. So now there are a lot of options for potatoes, though. All the way down to like Kangaskhan and Kramer. There are a lot of options for potatoes in this game. So it's pretty likely that you might have something else that can do potatoes fairly well earlier before you catch a mono potato option for Meowscarada, especially because Meowscarada is going to be a 1 in 9 chance instead of that 2 in 9 chance that you have on ABB specialists. So this might be a bit more of a difficult one to acquire if you want the true mono for potatoes. I'm assuming most players probably already had one of these when Meowscarada came out, if they are long-term players like I am. So the question becomes, is it really necessary? A lot of the mono potato options that are currently in the game, potatoes, you only need like 22 at a max, or 66 at a max per day. It with the current highest dishes. And as you can see here, those with just ingredient finding M, any of these potato options can do that. In fact, let's see. If I take away the ingredient finding M, they can almost be getting that 66 per day. It doesn't take much for those other Pokemon to be reaching that goal. So ultimately, you don't necessarily need the mono potato option unless you just are looking to future-proof yourself. Now, something very interesting about the Meowscarada is there's limited options for milk out there right now. As far as ingredient specialists go, there are only 2 ingredient specialists in the entire game that have it as either an A or a B ingredient. And those are Meowscarada as the B ingredient and Blastoise for the A ingredient. Now, Blastoise is significantly better than Meowscarada at doing this job. Once again, it's one of those where the true mono way outperforms the alternative. But the alternative does pretty well, and especially once again, if you look at the current amounts that you need for the game, the most you'll need is like 26 per meal. That's less than 30 a day, or 90 a day. 90 a day would be 30 per meal. And Meowscarada does fairly well you can see with just ingredient finding M, it gets over 100. So you can use Meowscarada for this purpose, especially because, like I said, options are limited, and options are still limited for cacao, which Blastoise can do cacao. The only options for cacao, really, to get this much are like Blastoise, Absol, Clodsire. Clodsire is probably the better option for that, but Blastoise is a good secondary option, and Absol is really, really rare. So, overall, the Meowscarada can do either of those roles really well. Don't touch it for Ginger. I will say that. If you want to try and get it for Ginger, then what are you doing? That it's outperformed by a Mono Ginger Typhlosion for that purpose. So you really shouldn't be looking for it for that. And even if you do want the synergy of potatoes and ginger, Kangaskhan has that possible list. But there really isn't any synergy for potatoes and ginger. So I don't know what you'd be looking for there. Like, I guess there's Superpower Extreme Salad, but that's more of a mid-game meal. And if you're looking at level 60, you should not be looking to meals this low of value. So I wouldn't. The C ingredient is a troll ingredient on the Meowscarada as of right now, unless they add some sort of meal that includes that sort of combo. But then, like I said, that combo you could get with a Kangaskhan as well. So realistically, you want this guy doing either mono potato or ABB. There's also not that much synergy between potatoes and milk. I think there's like one meal. Yeah, the soft potato chowder and the Dream Eater butter curry as well. But Dream Eater butter curry is better handled by either Victory Bell and Blastoise or Mr. Mime and Blastoise. There's better, nice combos for this than trying to get the potato and milk on one Pokemon. So realistically, I would suggest only running this guy ABB or AAA. And no other options, I think, are very good on this. Maybe an AAX option. Either of these ones you could run as a temporary invest for potatoes, since the other potato options in this game are all level 60 only. So until you get them, you could run the Meowscarada with just double A if you need potatoes immediately. But something also very interesting about Meowscarada is that it does shockingly well as a berry specialist. There's this whole concept of pseudo berry specialists in the game, of Pokemon that are technically ingredient or technically skill specialists that have a higher base frequency than 1.5 times, or not higher base frequency, lower base frequency, higher speed, than Pokemon that have that specialty, or have that berry, that are berry specialists more than 1.5 times, so that they can make up the difference if they have Berry Finding S. We see this often talked about with Gengar and Dragonite, are the two that come to mind the most when it comes to Berry Finding S, making them a pseudo-berry specialist. But Meowscarada is a close third option, I'd say, for a pseudo-berry specialist. As you can see here, as a generalist, it actually performs fairly closely to other options at the same island. Meowscarada, compared to Houndoom, actually does better when there is no when there's no favored berry applied. Now, because some of its raw strength is coming from a lot more ingredients, like you can see the berry strength is actually lower, significantly lower than the Houndoom's. But since a lot of its strength is coming from raw ingredients, which don't scale with favored berry, when I do apply favored berry, it does come in a little bit weaker than the Houndoom. But if you don't have anything for Snowdrop and you catch a Meowscarada with Berry Finding S, Helping Bonus, Help Speed M, this can actually do very, very well at that island with the Dark Berry. So, like, it's something to consider and remember as an option. I wouldn't hunt Meowscarada for this purpose, but if you're hunting Meowscarada for the milk and the potatoes, and you catch one with the right stats, it can do this job shockingly well. And something that it has over other pseudo-berry specialists like Gengar and Dragonite is it has that really, really nice main skill of Cooking Power Up S. It's going to be able to actually use... It should be able to use all of these potatoes as filler, theoretically, to actually be able to get that. Because with those other guys, maybe they'll overproduce ingredients. You fill your pot all the way. You're not actually getting the amount of strength that's promised from them. So they end up actually being worse than the berry alternative, because the berries, there is no cap to how many you can use per day. This guy, it actually can probably output all these, because it is getting a few procs of Cooking Power Up to assist it. So, yeah, it's a very interesting Pokemon. I think it is one of the It's got a lot of potential in things that it can do. Uh, the only thing that I would say is don't try to use it as your skill specialist because that skill proc rate is really low. But the skill is very nice. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing skill trigger on a Meowscarada, as long as everything else is lining up with what I'm looking for in the dark cat, the dark grass cat. If you want to hunt it, it's currently available at Greengrass, Lapis, and Old Gold Power Plant. I believe it's at all those spots in all of its in its whole evolutionary line. So realistically, you're looking for it in one of those 3 spots. It's gonna be. I would only recommend for hunting it Lapis and Old Gold because Greengrass, you got the whole Greengrass problem of the spawn pool is too big. You're not gonna be able to hunt any one thing in particular. So really Lapis and Old Gold if you want to catch a good Sprigatito to evolve into Meowscarada. So yeah, if you have enjoyed the video and maybe learned something, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It does help out the channel. And come join and hang out in the Discord. That link will be in the description. We'd love to have more people in there having great discussion about Pokemon Sleep. And as always, I thank you guys for watching and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.